All right. Welcome back to the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Brightman, coming to you shortly after Rutgers earns its first Big Ten victory of the season, 66-57 over who else? Indiana at the rack. 9 out of 11 of its last meetings, 9 wins in the last 11 games against the Hoosiers. 3-1 now, Steve Peichel against Mike Woodson. Indiana fans like to use Archie Miller as an excuse for why RU dominated for so long. Now 3-1, Steve Peichel versus Mike Woodson. Two teams that he took to the NCAA tournament, by the way. One win in Assembly Hall. Tonight was a classic Rutgers Steve Peichel program win. It was not pretty. It was gritty. It was an intense battle in terms of Rutgers' energy and effort defensively on the glass, and they gutted it out. And it was pretty much a must-win at this stage in the season. 0-3 coming in. Indiana was 3-1 coming in the Big Ten, coming off that Ohio State win. This was really important just for this team's identity. I talked about it in the preview, and they did a lot of things well. The one thing they did not do well is shoot the ball once again. They shot 32% and won the game. That's pretty miraculous. That doesn't happen very often. Held Indiana to 40% shooting. But, yeah, Rutgers struggled. Let's see. They shot 32.3% from the floor, 22.7% from 3, 5 of 22, and 68% from the free throw line, 19 of 28. Down the stretch, Andre Hyatt, Derek Simpson making their free throws. I talked about that in the preview. That is really going to be an asset for Rutgers down the stretch in games this season. True weapon that they haven't necessarily had, even with their best teams. They didn't have three options as reliable. I mean, Derek Simpson was shooting 87% coming in. He was 5 of 7. He did miss 2. Hyatt was 4 of 5. Fernandez was 2 of 2. He's shooting over 80%. Hyatt's near 80%. So those guys came through. Mag was 4 of 6. Palmquist was 2 of 2. You know, the big guys struggled from the foul line. That's nothing new. But in terms of what this team did well, they forced 18 turnovers of Indiana. They did end up with 15 of their own. That was a lot of those were late. They got a little sloppy, but they scored 18 points off of turnovers of Indiana, including 19 points in transition. They had a 12-1 edge in second chance points. They had offensive rebounds, 19 offensive rebounds, held Indiana just 8. 12-1 advantage in second chance points. I mean, they won the game by 9 points, and you outscore Indiana by 11 on second chance points. So that's effort. That is hunger. That's just all-out grit in terms of Rutgers being able to outwork Indiana. And I also thought the bench gave them big minutes tonight in terms of, let's see, bench points. 16 to 8 advantage there. Austin Williams got the start. Let's talk about him. Gave them a huge lift in so many ways. 10 points, 5 of 9 shooting, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, a block. Also just, was good defensively. He gave them much needed energy. He was smiling. He was bouncy. He was getting offensive rebounds. He was playing with a lot of enthusiasm and joy, which this team desperately needs. No one has been playing like Austin Williams played tonight. This is his third good game in a row now. He was listed as questionable on the injury report coming in. He's got to stay healthy, but he's a 7th-year guy. He's played in the NCAA tournament with Hartford. He's a veteran guy. He's got experience. He's got good size defensively in the Big Ten, 6'4" guard. He can rebound pretty well. He made a great play. It was in transition where he kind of side dribbled around Xavier Johnson to avoid the charge and scored the basket. He was under control. He has good awareness. He's just a smart player. He's not the best shooter. He's a little bit turnover prone, but I think he adds a lot, and he showed it again tonight. So that was a great addition by Steve Peichel, making the switch there. I guess you could say, listen, I mean, it's a little bit of a concern. You have 4 guards. You've started them all now, trying to find that right combination. Hopefully, Williams works out and can stay healthy and solidify. Derek Simpson He didn't shoot great tonight at all. 2 of 13 from the floor. Like I say, he did his free throws, had 10 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. It was a balanced effort. You had 5 guys in double figures. Mag had 13, also 8 rebounds, 4 assists. You had Hyatt had 2 big threes in the second half. He had 12 points, 6 rebounds. Cliff, just 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting, but 11 rebounds. I'll check the blocks in a minute. And JaMychal Davis hit some big shots. He was 4-9. He had 6 rebounds. So that was really good to see. Just the balance in terms of so many contributions in this game. And in terms of, let's see, a couple more intangibles there. Yeah, Mag had 3 steals as well. So 8 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and led them with 13 points. Second game in a row, he's led them in scoring. Let's see. Austin Williams, as I mentioned, had 2 steals. Cliff had 5 blocks. So Cliff showed up, I thought, in a big way defensively. Renault and Ware certainly had, an impact at times. What did they finish with? Ware had 13 points, 17 rebounds. Renault had 13 points, 6 rebounds. But they didn't go off, and they didn't dominate the action. And I just thought that Cliff brought that intensity that Rutgers needed on the defensive end. I thought he helped set the tone defensively. He really stood up strong. And, Mag played well, I thought, defensively as well. Just in terms of blocks, Rutgers had 7 blocks. Indiana, like I said, they were just 27% from 3, 7 of 26. They missed a ton of free throws, too, 4 of 15. Listen, Indiana did not look good. Rutgers certainly benefited from Indiana not looking good, not playing well. You're not going to win many games shooting 32%. But there is the positive in that you won pretty comfortably, not shooting good at all. So I know people, I got a couple comments, when are you going to accept that Rutgers is a terrible shooting team? I'm not going to accept it yet. I think this team, honestly, is still evolving. I know we're inching into mid-January here, but look at Austin Williams emerging now. Gavin Griffiths had a rough night. Again, did not play a lot. 0-2 from the floor. Noah Fernandez had a rough night, just 0-2 with the floor, did not get a lot of time. But I just hate the mentality of giving up on them and giving up on this team. Someone wrote, it's great that they beat Indiana even in this lost season. I mean, listen, do they have their backs against the wall a little bit? Of course. They're 9-6, 1-3 in the Big Ten. This was, I believe, was this a quad 3 win? I think it was. They own a quad 1 win over Seton Hall on the road. They have a lot of work to do. The schedule doesn't get much easier either. They're at Michigan State on Sunday. Nebraska next week at home was no pushover whatsoever. And then Purdue, number 1 Purdue. So the front half of the schedule, I think, is much tougher for Rutgers than the second half of the schedule, where you get a lot of Michigans, Marylands, Penn States, things like that. This team's just got to fight through it. They got to keep evolving, keep getting better. This is the 3rd game in a row that they're double-digit plus rebounding margin. That's a huge step in that regard. Mag's made a big influence there, but I think the team as a whole has gotten better, and they're buying in now to everybody needing to rebound. They're doing a better job of keeping opponents off the offensive glass. They're capitalizing a little bit more in second chance points. Let's see in terms of how they did near the rim tonight. In terms of layups, they were 9 of 21, 2 of 3 in dunks, 11-24. Still not good enough. Not good enough. Their points per possession were just 0.892. That is not good. Like I said, to win as comfortably as they did with such terrible shooting is actually a positive. Indiana, 0.781 points per possession. They were 9-19 on layups, but 5 of 5 on dunks. Again, Rutgers struggles to get easy buckets, but they were getting those second chance points off of rebounds tonight. And they were more connected as a team out there. They played with more energy. They played with more confidence. And I mean, isn't it just so wonderful in life where to know that, there's not a lot of things you can count on, but you can count on Rutgers to beat Indiana in basketball. And that's a beautiful thing. 9 of its last 11 now, 5 in a row at the rack. The last time Indiana won at the rack was in 2018. Wild. And, Indiana fans used Archie Miller as an excuse. Steve Peichel now 3-1 against Mike Woodson, including a win in Assembly Hall 2 years ago. But Since Indiana won at the rack in 2018, Rutgers has won 9 of 11 meetings. That is just pure domination. And listen, Indiana, Ken Palm wise, I mean, Rutgers was favored tonight by 3 or 4. They covered the spread. They were 90th in Ken Palm. Indiana was 91st, but Indiana was 3-1. They had a chance to build some momentum. Where Renew were great. Let's talk about old friend Xavier Johnson. I mean, pulling just such a knucklehead move and just the dirtiest of dirty moves, literally grabbing the family jewels of Antoine Wolfolk. And then Wolfolk responded in kind with an elbow across his throat and knocked him down. Amazing that the Big Ten officials actually took the time to go back and find. It's like you knew that Xavier Johnson did something to agitate the typically mild-mannered Wolf, and he did, and they caught it, and it was gratuitous. It was ridiculous. It does not belong in any sport, and I was just so tickled to see him get ejected. And you could argue at the time that, that actually hurt Rutgers because Johnson was playing bad, and, maybe it was better he wasn't out there taking shots away from where Renew. But that definitely helped momentum, and Rutgers kind of took off from there, and Indiana didn't have a chance. So that was certainly satisfying. This was, it's been a frustrating few weeks, and to have Rutgers win this game, obviously the crowd was impacted by the storm that's going on, so the rack wasn't as wild as it normally would be. But Rutgers showed up. They showed up, and they won. They won old school Steve Peichel Rutgers fashion. It was a bare knuckle fight. They won with rebounding. They won with defense. It was ugly. The score was nowhere near as high as it was other than free throws down the stretch. Listen, if Rutgers can win ugly, if they can win with rebounding and defense, they're going to have a shot here. To call it a lost season is a mistake. It's a mistake. I'm telling you. Teams, they finally broke the losing streak at the rack in Big Ten play. They lost 4 in a row. Nebraska is a tough game, but I mean, that's a winnable game. You have Maryland twice, you have Michigan twice, you have Penn State at the rack, you're at Minnesota. Won't be easy. We know that. I'm surely forget. Did I mention Michigan? I think so. There's some winnable games on that schedule. Rutgers is not. People want to say they weren't going to win another Big Ten game. I mean, it's so dramatic. Like, come on. This team is a work in progress. They're not where we hoped they would be. They have a lot of work to do, but there is talent on this roster, and they continue to shoot terribly. I'm not saying they're going to all of a sudden shoot 50% for the rest of the season, but it is going to balance out a little bit. They are going to shoot better at times. They are. And there's wins on the table for this team. And can they get to 10, 11, maybe 12 wins? I know if you're listening to this or watching me say this, you're laughing at me. That's fine. You know what? It's college basketball. Anything can happen. This program has shown us anything can happen with that team 2 years ago, with the way they were, and to that unprecedented historic winning streak to ultimately make the NCAA tournament. I know the odds are very against this team, but to just give up on them and expect, this team played with some fire tonight. This team played with some fire, and that was really reassuring. Even though Derek Simpson didn't shoot well, he played with some authority. He had some purpose. They shared the basketball better. They played with more purpose tonight. And if they can just do that, if they can just stick together, play more connected on the defensive end, play a little smarter, and share the basketball more on offense, continue to be disruptive with turnovers, and they have to profit on second chance points. This team has to get easy baskets inside. They have to score second chance points off of offensive rebounds. They have to do that. And then hopefully, eventually, they start hitting some threes. Again, Hyatt hit some big ones tonight. Jermichael Davis hit a big one. This team hit shots when they had to hit them. And here we go. So big game Sunday in East Lansing against Michigan State, but Rutgers gets off the schneid here with a much-needed, very satisfying win over little brother Indiana. Now 9 of 11. It's really unbelievable. I know I mention it all the time, but sitting in the Madison Square Garden when they were down 16 points in the second round of the Big Ten tournament in 2018 to be here now, that they ended up winning that game and it started a 9 of 11 streak. It's unbelievable. It really is. And to see Indiana fans take it so poorly is just satisfaction. To see Xavier Johnson get ejected like that. I mean, that was, we needed this. We needed it. And we got it. We got it. So Rutgers wins. Thanks for listening and watching the Scarlet Faithful podcast once again. And I'll talk to you soon.